Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Malcriada, Thoughts of a Girl in a Sick World. In this episode, we will be discussing all things liberation and what you can do to add to its momentum. First, I will be covering the International Rescue Committee's 2024 Emergency Watchlist report, paired with commentary. Following will be my call to action and some final thoughts. But if it isn't clear enough. Free Palestine, free Sudan, free the Congo, free the whole world, motherfucker! Major shout out to Angie Marie on TikTok. She is the first person I saw covering this list. She's putting out amazing content, and her handle will be in the show notes of this episode. The International Rescue Committee is an organization that responds to the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The following includes 2024's emergency watch list. These are the top 10 most at-risk countries in the world. Number 1, Sudan. Number 2, occupied Palestinian territory. Number 3, South Sudan. Number 4, Burkina Faso. Number 5, Myanmar. Number 6, Mali. Number 7, Somalia. Number 8, Niger. Number 9, Ethiopia. Number 10, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The following are unranked at-risk countries: Afghanistan, Central African Republic, Chad, Ecuador, Haiti, Lebanon, Nigeria, Syria, Ukraine, and Yemen. The following are not included on the list, but I believe they should also be mentioned in the conversation of liberation: Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Native American reservations, and pueblos indígenas en Norte y Sudamérica, which translates to indigenous peoples communities in North and South America. I will be making more episodes on these topics. I apologize for not covering all the individual pueblos. I want to reach out to indigenous creators with much more experience on the matter than myself to cover these topics in the near future. Now I will cover the key points of the International Rescue Report. Please go and check it out for yourself if you want to follow along. It will be linked in the show notes. I'm going to go over it, but I do want to say that I'm also going to kind of simplify it, because even though it's very understandable to me, it's because I can't say it's the same for other people, especially for kiddos who want to get involved. So I really want to I don't want to say I'm simplifying it because it's so hard to understand. No, I feel like these reports and honestly any legal document is full of jargon, and I feel like it's like that on purpose so people don't want to see that, oh, it's so heavy, I don't want to read it, it's too much, I can't process all that information. That's not true, and I want to help break it down because I thought this information was very important. First, we have the new extremes of humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian crises upend people's lives, threaten their survival, and deny them of their ability to recover and rebuild their lives. There are many causes of humanitarian crises, though armed conflict, climate change, and economic shocks are the most common. And crises look different in different places, depending on what threats people face, whether they have routes to flee to safety, and more. But the effects are the same: immense, avoidable suffering that lasts long after a crisis has dropped out of the headlines, and communities denied the resources they need, leading to reliance on the IRC and other humanitarians to offer assistance and protection as resources to do so dwindle. Watchlist countries are home to only 10.6% of the world's population, but carry a disproportionate burden of global humanitarian crisis. While the total number of people in humanitarian need globally dropped slightly in 2024, we are seeing record levels of humanitarian crisis in other key metrics. 299.4 million people are in humanitarian need in 2024. 110 million people are forcibly displaced worldwide, 75% of whom are from Watchlist countries. 237.8 million people globally are experiencing crisis or worse level food insecurity, 68% of whom are in Watchlist countries. 659 million people are living in extreme poverty today, according to World Bank estimates, and 30% of them are in Watchlist countries. What to take away from that paragraph, so to summarize, is that the reason people all around the world are in humanitarian crisis are because of war. Armed conflict is war. Climate change and economic shocks. Economic shocks just has to do with the economy, obviously. But when you think of economic, think of big businesses. What are they doing? Are they taking resources where they're not supposed to, or on land that doesn't belong to them? That's what they're referring to, without being so blatant, obviously, because they can't. We have to use all this fancy wording or whatever to discuss people dying, which is insane to me. And all of this is avoidable. It's avoidable. But because people aren't providing these places that are in crisis with the resources to come up and build upward mobility, they're just being, their fates are in the hands of people who are humanitarians, which would mean all nonprofit organizations that are not run by the government but by civilians, which is great that there are people who want to help regardless. However, it shouldn't be just up to the people on top of everything else that they have to deal with. That's the main takeaway from that first paragraph. And then the second part was talking about the statistics of people who are in crisis. Please, let's take a moment to process all these numbers, because they are human lives and not just another statistic. What's next on the list is 8 facts explaining the extreme levels of humanitarian crisis. Number 1, armed conflict and climate change are increasingly converging in the same places at the same time, which means where there's war, there's going to be damage being done to the climate and wherever there is. That's logical. It makes sense. No one's trying to lie here. It's fact. Number 2, civilians are caught between states and a growing influence of armed groups, whether organized along political, communal, criminal, and other lines. I guess this is a good point to express that there is such a difference between the people and their government. The government is when has a government shown interest of its people? I don't recall that in any fucking type of history or any type of civilization. There was always people being exploited, and there was always people doing the exploitation. And if a lot of these countries have been colonized, who do you think sets up these corrupt governments in place? Number 3, regional and global powers are intervening to drive and intensify conflicts, not calm them. And even when they try to mediate conflict, their efforts are proving ineffective. Imagine if you had a leak in your house. There was something wrong with the plumbing. You realize it, you peep it, you've lived in your house for so long. You know that there's a specific way that you're gonna fix it because of this, because of that, because of your type of living, because of your schedule, etc. You know your house. You've lived there since you were born. But your neighbor notices that you have a leak. And then your neighbor proceeds to enter your house without your permission to try to fix things, quote unquote. But they end up making things worse. they leak in the house, it turned to flooding in your house now because they weren't careful, because they didn't ask for your input, because they just imposed their right on your house and your issues in your life. That's the best way I can explain foreign countries such as the US and Britain, etc., intervening in other countries across the world that have nothing to do with them. It makes no sense when you bring it down to a micro level. Number 4, violent and unconstitutional leadership transitions are increasing the risk of crisis. Number 5, civilians and the infrastructure they depend on are increasingly unsafe as international law fails to protect them from the actions of warring parties. If there is armed conflict on a land, that's a one type of destruction. The armed conflict, as said before, changes and affects the climate in that area. That could be seen in increase in floods, droughts, etc. That's another type of destruction. Imagine what these things do to the infrastructure of a country. And infrastructure has anything to do with buildings, roads, the makeup of a city, the makeup of a country, the concrete things you see in a country. I was originally going to say, I remember the sidewalks in Mexico were super crooked, some were unfinished, some were higher than the others, etc. But I haven't even just seen that in Mexico. I also saw that in the valley. Some neighborhoods don't have sidewalks, some neighborhoods do, etc. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing overall. Obviously, it is neglectful of people with disabilities because there's no sidewalk to, what if you had a wheelchair? What then? It makes it harder for these people to live in these conditions. And I just can't help but imagine if we have fucked up infrastructure here in the US due to armed conflict, displacement, and gentrification. Just imagine how messed up and destroyed the infrastructure of the countries in the East are, who are under constant armed conflict, constant natural disasters due to climate change. Number 6, parties to conflict are failing to uphold their responsibility to protect humanitarian access. Instead, they are restricting humanitarian access and targeting humanitarian personnel without facing diplomatic or legal consequences. There are reporters on the ground covering all of this, the genocide happening in Gaza, and they are the ones being targeted. They are the ones that are being sniped when they're doing nothing wrong, when they're just trying to document as a plea, as an auxilio. And people are not holding these perpetrators accountable by international law or international courts. Heightened exposure to climate risks is threatening lives and livelihoods right now, and El Niño could exacerbate these risks in some watchlist countries. When we talk about climate change, we're not talking about how the individual actions of people are changing the world and fucking frying it. No, that's not what people are talking about when they're talking about climate change. The main causes of climate change are corporations and armed conflict, bombs, all that fucking bullshit. And the waste that all of these companies are allowed to just make that damages our planet, that hurts people, not only in the West, but the East and people all over the world. The reason for climate change is not our individual little pollutions. It's not. And people who are saying that it is and pushing that agenda are not people on the right side of fucking history. There are people who are bought. There are people who are funded by oil. It's not okay to blame the people for all of the damages that are being done to the earth when we are not the ones, where we are disproportionately aren't the ones with the money or resources to do that. No. But yes, obviously you shouldn't pollute. Don't do that. Number 8, the last fact of the list. The global increase in public debt is preventing some governments from investing in the systems and services to prevent and address humanitarian crisis. If you keep causing war and sending your military and sending your police and sending all these fucking quote unquote peacekeepers to these countries and propping up politicians who align with your bigoted fascist way of thinking, you're going to keep these countries in poverty. You're going to keep these people in debt. You're going to keep these people without access to education. And they want us like that. They want to keep extorting all the resources out of all these countries. Out of all these countries that are not the US and that are not friends of the US. They want to take all our resources and keep it all for them. For their quote unquote country. Because it's not even our country. Because what are they doing? They're not giving us shit. They want to keep exploiting us. They don't want to stop this because it benefits all the people at the top. The CEOs, the billionaires, I hear that now there's people are close to being a trillionaire. There are people who are going to have trillions in their bank account. You're telling me that these people shouldn't be held responsible for the entirety of the destruction they've done on this stupid world? They have all the money in the world, literally. It doesn't compare to the richest person you know. It does not compare to the celebrities we know. This is unimaginable amounts of money that could save the world. And what are they doing with it? Next, I will be covering the myths obscuring real and proven solutions. Myth number 1. Humanitarian access can be measured in truckloads of supplies alone. Fact. Meaningful humanitarian access is about communities having ongoing access to the services they require to survive, recover, and build their lives. When reporting focuses purely on the number of trucks on the move, not what they are delivering, or the feasibility of effective humanitarian action at the other end, it becomes harder to make the case for meaningful access. So this is basically saying it's not enough for there to exist. This is saying it's not enough for us to just be like, oh, I'll donate and it's fine. The donating isn't going to make the problem go away. We need to change our lifestyles. And we need to start calling out the people who need to be called out. Myth number 2. If you don't work with governments, you can't get anything done. Fact. Governments are an important partner for promoting development, but it is critical to have other options when governments are unable or unwilling to play this role. Otherwise, whole communities, even some countries, are denied access to critical development opportunities. I believe this refers to the dehumanization and demonization of individuals who rebel against their tyrant government or another country's tyrant government who is exploiting and genociding them, who rebel against the armed forces who are government. Why do we dehumanize these people? There is no reason, and this tactic does so much harm and is one of the first steps of genocide. Myth number 3. The US and Europe are already hosting more than their quote-unquote fair share of displaced people and shouldn't be expected to receive any more. Fact. Watchlist countries and their neighbors are home to 79% of non-Ukrainian refugees and displaced people globally. The US and Europe just hosts 8%. Yet they are setting a tone that normalizes closing borders. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Moving on. Myth number 4. Cutting emissions and restricting the rise of global temperatures is so important that we can't afford to spend money on adapting to climate change. Fact. Even if the world achieves its most ambitious goals of curbing global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and emissions to net zero, people in watchlist countries will still have to live with the current climate crisis, particularly floodings and droughts. But this myth means that inadequate resources are being invested in supporting countries like those on the emergency watch list to adapt to climate change. There's fucking money. There's money. As I said before, there's money for everything. The fucking US gave Israel like $1 billion for $100 billion for whatever for genocide. So you're telling me you have money for that, but not to invest in reducing carbon emissions and investing in adapting to climate change? You can't do that? Oh, okay. You're full of shit. You are full of shit. Myth number 5. Gender inequality is not a matter of life and death. Fact. Gender inequality is life-threatening to women and girls. It blocks effective humanitarian action, particularly to meet the needs of women and girls. This language is very binary, so I would like to include that not only are women and girls facing such horrors because they are women, because of the sexual reproductive parts that they were born in and have no control over, I would like to include femmes into the conversation. Queer femmes, trans women, feminine men, flamboyant men. You think that they aren't, like, how do you think that they are treated under war? Obviously, I cannot deny the horrible things that these girls are going through. The girls in Gaza, the girls in Palestine, the girls in the Congo, the girls in Sudan, all the countries. Sexual assault is used as a war tactic on babies, on children, on little girls and little boys, on trans women, on queer people, on gender non-conforming people. This is one of the things that absolutely breaks my heart, not only as a regular ass fucking person as a human, but as a girl, as a woman, as an older sister. Where are all the feminists? Where y'all at? You're in line at a Starbucks, or getting your fucking little Stanley Cup, or crying about the Grammys, crying that Margot didn't get a fucking nomination, that Lana didn't get her fucking shit. Are you kidding me? For the people who are like, oh, well, people can think about multiple things at once. Yeah, they definitely can. But this is the opinion that you're choosing to post. That's the opinion you're choosing to speak on. You could have thought it. That's fine. No one's going to judge you for thinking about it. Thinking, oh, maybe that's not the best thing ever. But what are you doing? What are you doing with your voice? What are you doing with your actions? Lastly, I will cover the 6 priorities for action to address unprecedented global challenges. Number 1. Save lives in fragile and conflict-affected states by investing in climate adaptation, resilience, and anticipatory action. Number 2. Tackle extreme poverty and economic drivers of rising humanitarian needs. Number 3. Prioritize gender equality in crisis response and shift power and resources to women-led organizations. Number 4. Promote shared prosperity by increasing aid and tackling the debt crisis. Number 5. Support and protect forcibly disabled people. Number 6. Stem impunity and reinforce international humanitarian law. And by what they mean in stem from impunity is to get away from impunity. And impunity meaning the lack of consequences or punishment to the military and government who are doing these kinds of atrocious things. In other words, we need to hold them accountable. All right, we're going to transition into the call to action part of the episode now. I'll be going over these following topics: donating, email/calling reps, boycotting, sharing and reposting, and last but not least, organizing. All right. On donating. Obviously donate if you have the means, but at the same time, I'm never going to tell you not to donate out of the kindness of your heart, even if your means are low. Secondly, I want you guys to be mindful of where you give your money to, because there are lots of nonprofits who exploit their workers, and that's not okay. So, but what I mean by that is don't donate to these nonprofits. No, not at all. I'm saying more so, hey, if you like what this nonprofit is doing, but you don't like the way they pay their workers and recruit interns and volunteers that are working but aren't getting paid for whatever experience or whatever, that's not okay. And we need to let these people know that, because though they are doing good, the people who are running this organization, for example, the source that I'm covering right now, the International Rescue Committee Emergency Watchlist report for 2024, I did a little digging on their website, and I saw that their president got, their salary was almost in the millions, almost by a few $300,000. And it's just crazy to me how someone can have that kind of a salary and still ask its organization and still recruit volunteers and interns. That makes no sense to me when they're the ones doing the footwork and the groundwork for all this. So I'm not saying donate to these organizations. I'm saying give them a piece of your mind. If you know an organization that is doing a good job, let them know. Email the president, email the committee. It's important, and they need pressure put on them. Don't feel like you need to have all this fancy way of talking in order to have your voice heard. Si le quieres decir chinga tu madre, pues dile chinga tu madre. Or be like, hey, I don't appreciate that your salary is da 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 while you are recruiting interns and volunteers who are doing the groundwork. That makes no sense to me, and whatever. And I urge you to pay your workers a livable wage. I urge you to have your salary be equal to everyone's salary. Because there are nonprofits who have done that. And there's one here in Seattle that helps youth to not fall into the school to prison pipeline. I will put it in the show notes. But yes, if that is possible for here, of course it's possible for all nonprofits. Yes? Okay, that's what I wanted to get out of the way. Also, you can also donate directly to families if you don't feel comfortable donating to a nonprofit. But de que se puede. Like, if you want to donate, you will find a way to donate. Just look some up online. There's lots of influencers and just people with big platforms who are using their platform for good. The last point I'm going to cover on donating is that donating is not the only way to help. As mentioned in the report before this, you can't just measure the amount of goodness that you do or put out in the world with trucks. You can't. Like, with trucks of aid. That's not enough, because that aid will end. It is a limited resource. Just like money is a limited resource for us, for them. It's a band-aid. Monetary help is a band-aid, and a band-aid very much needed, but a band-aid regardless. And the only way we can address and fix all these issues is by changing our lifestyles, and I will get into that more in depth in the commentary section of this episode. All right, next point: emailing and calling reps. My credibility for this is that I worked at a rep's office as an intern, and then I got hired. I used to be the one who answered these calls and take these messages. And I will just say, calling our reps is not for our satisfaction, but to show concrete solidarity. It helps build legal cases. South Africa was able to take Israel to court at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, with our reposts and our posts as evidence. And it's the same way. It's the same way with your physical emails and physical calls. This is what pushes lets representatives know what the majority of the people are standing for. And I know that the system is not great. That's one of the reasons I wanted to address calling in the reps, because I know how frustrating it is. I know. But again, it's not for our satisfaction. It's to show not just like, oh yeah, like I support it, but there's no action behind it. The action, the concrete action, is what matters. And when you are able to call these places and email them, you are free to give them a piece of your mind. Use your talking voice. That's something I want to emphasize the most, because when I worked at the Capitol in Texas, I would just get copy-paste emails. And that's all fine and dandy. Like, because this is how it would work. I would get a call, and I would have to file. I would ask for their email, their name, their everything. And then I'll be like, okay, what can I help you with? What message would you like to say to the representative, whatever? So people would be like, yes, I would like this and this and that, and yada, 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 and da, da, da. Me, as an intern, as a worker, as a staff member, I cannot answer on behalf of the representative. I was only supposed to be like, if there is bills that the representative has already passed on the issue or has signed on, they just say that. It's really, really stupid. It's really dumb. Like, for example, I remember an email pertaining about the legality and decriminalization of marijuana. And the individual was like advocating for it because of mental health issues, because of everything. And the representative that I would work for had already signed on to a bill on the decriminalization of marijuana in Texas, but it hadn't gotten passed. You know, like they're just gonna send you a whatever answer. But that frustration, don't let it drown you. Let it fuel you. When you're going into this process, no one's gonna answer you. You're not gonna get an answer. Go into the process of emailing your reps, calling your reps, leaving a message with the idea that I'm not gonna get the response I want going in. Again, it's to just show concrete solidarity and to add momentum to the fire, to the movement, okay? That's one of the biggest things. And if you want to make it more genuine and real for the person answering these messages, I would say use your own voice. They're more likely to answer you with a more genuine answer if you use your own voice. If you just use a copy-paste one, they're just going to give you the copy-paste one. If you give them a copy-paste answer, they're just going to give you a copy-paste answer. At least what I try to do is like get whatever, it doesn't matter. But yes, it was very frustrating, and my heart broke for the people I couldn't help. I wanted to be like, I'll send you some money. Like, it's fine. I can help you. But I couldn't, you know, like, bruh, I was an unpaid intern. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the boycottings. Boycotts are working. That's it. That's pretty much. Don't let people think and fool you and shame you into thinking that they're not working, that it's not going to do anything. The people who say, oh, well, it's not going to do anything, they're the people who are like, red flag, red flag, red flag. These are the people that don't care. And the thing is, I know you don't care, but not because you have any malicious intent. It's because you're tired. Everyone's tired. Everyone is tired, and we all want to escape. I understand, dude. I get it. It's just that there's no point in compromise. Like, you're willing to compromise your humanity because, like, what? We're all gonna die in the end? Seriously? It's just a pathetic excuse. And boycotting is what? One of the most bare minimum things you can do. Oh, I don't buy Starbucks. I don't buy McDonald's. You're telling me that you can't afford, like, it's your right. It's your darn right as an American to get your like, bitch. Please. God damn, dude. God fucking damn. That's one of the things I can never understand. And bro, I used to work at Starbucks. I got fired. But I used to work at Starbucks, bro. Like, and the way y'all treat the workers, dude. The way y'all treat the workers, like you think you're entitled to it. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about that real quick. You guys think that you're entitled to having your coffee, but the people making your coffee aren't entitled to a livable wage? They're not? It fucking blows my mind that people think, like, how are these people essential workers? How are food industry workers essential workers cuando les conviene, when we put them at risk for our comfort? They're essential. We need them. But I will not pay them a livable wage. The acts are so easy. They're just making coffee. It's so easy. It's not about that, bro. You're taking their time. They're also paying with their time. You're also paying for their time, the convenience. That's what you're paying for. We could, in the future, maybe, third places where we can convivir, like, be amongst each other, celebrate, eat food a la gratuita, for no cost. Because we won't be motivated by profiting. But we don't live in that place yet. So we have to pay our workers. And don't say that there's no money, because there is. There always is. But you know why? These CEOs are putting all their money into other things to expand their wealth. Rich people don't think like regular people in terms of money. They get money and they're like, what else can I do with this to benefit me, to grow my legacy, to grow my dynasty? Me vale madre, way. If you have a house, you get a house, all right, that's all you need. All right, you get a car because you need a whatever. You have your business. What more do you want? What hole are you trying to fill? I will never understand. But boycotts are working. Don't let anyone tell you that they're not working. We see the way that Starbucks is losing billions, McDonald's is losing billions. Dude, I hardly ever saw McDonald's commercials. I'm seeing them so much more now. I hardly saw Starbucks commercials, dude. I hardly saw them. But yeah, boycotts are working. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Keep doing it. And it's gonna take a while, to get these results in. It's the long game. And okay, that's all I wanted to talk about boycotts. Moving on to sharing and reposting. And here I would also like to reiterate that this is not for satisfaction. It's to show concrete solidarity and to not let the momentum of the movement dwindle. So same thing as the calling rep stuff. If we keep flooding the US social media, US media with these kinds of things, like, people are gonna listen because they're gonna have no other choice. So repost. Don't worry about being quote unquote annoying. Don't worry about any of that. There's so many more things on the line. Obviously you don't have to be like a reporter on it, but repost when you can. If someone calls to action, be like, hey, can you make a video about Palestine or Congo or Sudan? Like, ¿de qué te cuesta nada más hacer un video que dice I stand for the free, de qué te cuesta just to make a little quick video? of saying like, I support Palestine, I support Sudan, I support Congo, I support all the people of indigenous countries who are being tormented, killed, who are getting terror rained on them for no reason other than they want their land. De que te cuesta nomás say, I agree, and keep doing everything else. Keep living your life in silence, but making sure you show up for at least that. I think that sharing and reposting is one of the barest of the minimal. But from what I'm seeing, like, something that pisses me off so much is that when I go to someone's like TikTok like repost, and I see nothing about like Palestine. Or I go on my Instagram and like I see only a few of my mutuals reposting stuff about Palestine or Congo or Sudan or land back or anything. Like, they're not saying anything. Like, they're just like, look how pretty I am, and it's like, you're beautiful and gorgeous and I love that for you, but what else is there? Like, guy, what's in your little noggin? Like, bro, like, and I know that that is also not their fault. That's the thing. Like, I want to be angry, but I can't even say that mad because I understand. I understand the need to niche. This society has made you niche ourselves into a little bubble so we don't move too much and we don't make too much noise. You sit there and you look pretty and you do your little song and you get your little money. Y cállate la boca. I don't want that. I want to see into my mutuals' brains. I want to see into their minds. I want to work it out with them. I want to talk it out with them. I want to build community so bad, pero no están diciendo nada. And I'm scared. I'm scared that they're going to just, okay, I'm just going to not support you. I'm just not going to follow you. I don't care about being followed, but I'm scared of people thinking that I'm trying to attack them. When I'm just so tired and angry of people ignoring all this shit. And I've been fucking talking about this. I've been talking about liberation. I've been talking about all this stuff. Not publicly, but in my life. I hold my parents accountable. As an older sister, I hold my parents accountable. I call out any type of colorism, racism, classism, any type of bullshit that I see. It doesn't matter who I'm in front of. And that's the type of people that these are the type of people that are being silenced and told to shut the fuck up the most. I feel like it's on purpose. I feel like it's like, yeah, like, of course we're going to call you crazy because I want you to burn out. They want us to burn out. They want us to not care about to be like, okay, fine, I don't care anymore either. And I did for a while. And I'm so ashamed of that. But not anymore. I can't go back after what I've seen. I can't. I had never seen it like that before. I heard it in school. I studied it. But I didn't see that. We can't go back. I don't think we can. All right. So last but not least on the call to action is organized. Okay. When people hear organized, I think people are scared and intimidated because they think, oh, I have to organize. That means that I'm going to be a leader or something. And I who am I? Who am I to start something? Why do people care? What we need to realize is that we're not alone. And people are not as mean as people think we are. We were raised in such a hyper individualistic, capitalistic piece of shit. Okay, sorry. Really shitty world. And we think that everyone's against us. When only there's a few people against us. And most of us agree. You can organize something. No matter your expertise, I assure you it's needed because everything is political. Everything, even how you shit, bro. Why do we shit in toilets? Why don't we have outhouses? Or not outhouses, but why don't we have like, I don't know. Why are we dumping our poop in the ocean? That makes no sense. Makes no sense, bro. And why do you think all that stuff happens? I don't. Another thing that people like think that they're like, oh, I can't organize. I'm just going to focus on myself. I can't organize yet because I don't have a big platform yet. I need to get a more platform. And in order to get a bigger platform, I need to be a little bit more palatable. Don't be palatable. Don't. Also, don't aim for stardom. When you start your career in whatever you're doing, whether that is art, whether that is being a lawyer, whether that is being a teacher, if you want to be a professional, anything, don't aim, okay, well, I'm going to be the best one in the world, and so many people are going to see what I do, and if I'm a singer, I'm going to win Grammys, and I'm going to win this, and I'm going to sell at arenas. Don't aim for stardom, aim for community. Because too much fame, too much success, quote unquote, is a real thing. Just like too much watering a plant is a real thing. It will die. That's why all these stars are dying. A pop star lifestyle is not sustainable. They can't, like, think of the Lady Gaga audio. Club, another club, fight, no sleep. Like, these people are overworked, underpaid, and they're just trying to get money out of them. People don't actually care about true good music, about true art. They're just trying to profit off of you. So whatever dream you have, the best way I can imagine, whatever dream you have, make it local first. I know that it's so hard. It's so hard to be yourself in your own town because, oh, I know all these people. They know who I am. They've seen me grow. That's beautiful. Because we need to start helping our community first before we leave to another state to chase our big dreams. That's not helping anyone. Now, that's just adding to the gentrification of California, the gentrification of New York. It's adding to that. If you want to be a teacher, start where you are. If you want to be a this, start where you are. Now, if where you are, there's not enough jobs, I understand that. I'm not blind to that. But yeah, that's something I want to start emanating. That's something that I want to do. I don't care anymore. Like, I don't care. I don't care if I become a successful author. I don't care for these awards anymore, okay? I don't care. I used to. I was like, I'm going to be a best-selling author. I'm going to be a poet. And I'm going to win this award and that award. And people are going to know my name. It's all ego. It's all ego and it doesn't matter. And you see all these stars and like famous people like talking about how at the end when they get their award, they're like, now what? How many movies do we need about this? How many Stars Born do we need? Some examples of good community organizations will be linked. Like I said, an example is Radical Clothes Swap and Feed Los Angeles. I saw these girly pops on social media, and they're just doing the best. The first are Radical Clothes Swap is they host pop-ups of clothes swaps, and they provide clothes to each other. For the free. And And it's beautiful how much momentum they're getting. And I'm seeing more and more things like this pop up, which I love. I love, and it motivates me and it inspires me, and it reminds me that there's good in the world. There's so much good in the world. We're just being oppressed. We're just being silenced. And the faster we realize that, the faster we can get to dismantling this stupid system and building a new one that helps and keeps everyone in mind. Everyone. From any type of identity that is not obviously like bigoted and fascist, obviously, but you know. And to close off, here are my final thoughts. We face a drastic disconnect from the land we inhabit as well as its people. Our current model blatantly disregards BIPOC's voices, and that will be its doom. The only thing that brings true wealth is community. And that starts with us. I implore you to not give up, to keep fighting and resisting with your words, actions, art, services, and passion. Rest when needed and then get back up again. It's been tough to witness all these atrocities on our screens. But if this isn't a huge wake-up call, then I don't know what is. I find myself trying to create solutions in my head, new systems, new societies, new worlds. But I always reach a point where I feel stuck because what we need, genuine, ethically produced goods and mutual aid, is very scarce. This is one of the reasons I believe organizing, getting to know our community, etc. is so important. I'm doing my best, trying to do what I can when I'm away from home, in a strange state that I have no idea. I don't know anyone. It's hard, but I'm going to try. That's all I can do. I don't want to turn a blind eye anymore. I don't want to just be consuming myself into just a bunch of bullshit. Aren't I super hypocritical if I don't practice what I preach? So I have to do that. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Malcriada, Thoughts of a Girl in a Sick World. And what a sick world it is. This was your host, Sodra Knives, signing off.